What is up, guys, and welcome to the Reload Podcast. My name's Cody Luongo, and today we're talking CS. We got the Champions of Miami episode, talking a little bit about Blast Pro Series Miami wrapping up. You had FaZe Clan win that one, and Australis falter, falling in 5th place. I can't believe it either, but we'll get into a little bit about that. Obviously, in the news, you got NRG Mouse now. FaZe going through ESL Pro League Vitality, winning the Charlia Esports tournament. I just practiced one with Snodz. And a little bit about Dreamhack Masters Dallas coming up, and a little bit more to come and talk about. But first, let's bring in our first guest, much less now a co-host. I want to call him my dog, but he's actually a bear. Let's go ahead and bring him in. It's Erik DaBears. Stromberg, baby. I want to see him.
Doing neck exercise before I get on. Get loose. Just get, on the computer a lot. You just got to get loose a little bit, okay? Just let it flow. Let it flow. How's it going, dog?
I'm good, man. I'm feeling
I'll
good.
call you dog. It's cool.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll
I'm
call
the
you
dog now?
You're my dog. You're my dog.
I feel it. I feel a little gangster right now, a little ghetto in my attitude. A little chip on my shoulder.
A little bit. Hey, where are you at now? Are you at the Vatican?
Oh, I forgot to mention, baby.
Where is this place that you're at?
I'm in Rio de Janeiro for Dreamhack Open Rio happening this weekend. How could I forget to mention?
There you go.
I'm out here. I got a skybox, obviously. A nice view of this statue right here.
There you go.
They're flying me
Jesus.
out. It's getting expensive. It's getting expensive,
You know what? You have to get the stories. You have to get the news, and there's one way to do it.
I got a big price
Be there
tag.
at the source. Be there at the source.
I'm going to venture on down to this part of the statue right here. I'm going to kiss his little feet. I'm going to go over, talk to all the Furia players, get the insights. I'll be like, I kissed Jesus' feet for you.
There you go.
Now
There you go. Watch the feet. That's how you do it.
Oh, well. And how are you, my friend? How are you doing today on this fine
Doing
day?
great. Just enjoying my Thursday. I guess it's noon for me. Just right after the noon. So technically afternoon. Warm, cool, not too bad. I hear the weather's going to get pretty rough there in the Midwest, East Coast here.
Dude,
I think it just passed you guys.
Got thunderstorms yesterday, last night. Got 80-degree weather coming out. Then it's 30 degrees. You never know.
Beach weather.
Still,
Get out your shorts.
Curveballs left and right, man. You don't know what's going on.
I wish you could play computers outside. That'd be nice. With the sun and the glare. It gets too much with the monitor. It gets too complicated. But it'd be nice one day.
Someday. We'll work on that. We'll talk a little bit about computing outside gaming, a little CS action, toss a flashbang out there in the grass. Let's bring in our special guest today. He's a former Team Endpoint opper. He is a freelance caster who's worked for Gfinity ESL Pro League and the Intel Extreme Masters. It's Alex Snodz, baby. Let's see him. Come on.
Hello. How you guys doing?
Great. How are you?
Oh, not too bad. It's a second round of applause. There we go.
Standing ovation, huh?
It's not quite as sunny, obviously, here in England. I mean, you can probably see. Let me move my chair back a little bit. It's pretty doom and gloom at the moment.
Isn't it always like that over there?
Yeah, I know. It's usually pretty dark and sinister, but that's much like our humor, so it goes hand in hand. But yeah, how you guys doing? Obviously, first time I've been on here. How are you guys doing?
I'm great. I'm A+. I'm here every Thursday is what I do. We got a pretty good week of CS. Not too much craziness happening, when there's a lot going on. I gotta dig in to the action, but I'm well. I think Bear's doing good. I can feel his energy right now coming through.
Yeah. I don't want to critique the show. I don't want to critique the show the first time I'm here, but I saw on the bit before it starts, it's like the Reload podcast premieres in 2 minutes. And I was like, pretty sure this has been going on for months now. I'm not sure if this is the first week it's ever happened. Well, maybe I'm wrong.
It's premiering every week, all right? Premieres every week, all right? For some person, it's new.
Fair enough. I just got a shake of the head from our producer.
Oh, no, he's not happy. I'm so sorry.
You just rubbed his nose in it. Just go, not premiere.
There you go, 3 months of the pipe. It's back. It's back in 2 minutes, so we're back. I say we're back. It's the first time here, but what can you do?
We are. Well, Alex, thank you for joining us, man. I know we've been talking for a while now, since November. What have you been up to? You've been, I know you've been in and out, right? You've had a couple, some health issues and things. I don't know if you want to expand about, but obviously, what's it been like in the life of Snodz?
Yeah, I know you brought it up. Jeez. Basically, God, let me cast my mind back because this is a long time ago. Obviously, you first reached out to me in November 2018, and that was before my operation. So I was doing what event was it? Chicago qualifiers in Cologne in the ESL HQ. And I remember as well, it was the first time I was ever working like directly under Joe Miller. Like he was there, in person, all that. I'm here to like you're gonna meet Joe Miller, put in a good first impression, yada yada yada. Long story short, I ended up getting a really bad virus, which pretty much gave me tonsillitis, and it didn't really leave for about 5 months. So yeah, I had tonsillitis for about 5 months. Eventually got my tonsils taken out, and thankfully I'm back working. But now I've got another problem. Now I have to get a surgery on my nose as well because I've got a diverted septum in my nose, which is causing breathing problems, and it's just not fun. It's not good. It's not good. Yeah, this is why I need like medical insurance or something. I don't know, but
at least you're not living in America. You're not getting any medical insurance over here.
And again, the NHS.
Something. Yeah. Are you guys in Europe still? What's happened with all that?
Maybe
that's a whole different topic. Maybe that's a whole different topic. Maybe we shouldn't get into
that. It's like a Brexit now.
Actually got declined. Oh God, a few weeks ago. Theresa May's managed to extend it to the 30th of June. So I guess we'll find out in 2 months, basically, whether or not Brexit's happening, which I don't think it will do. But who knows?
Doesn't make sense for them. But you know what? Let's not get into that because it's CS:GO.
Yeah,
yes, baby.
That was my fault.
Right,
that was my fault.
Yeah,
I can move on.
Just let it run its course. That's where I'm at. Let it go. So you had 2 ailments, which both knocked you right out of casting, right? You can't
not yet. The nose operation. Well, the nose operation's in 5 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, throat. Thank God that's done. But I've got another issues with that as well. Like I'm now getting tonsillitis on my scar tissue. So the tonsils are actually gone. I'm still getting tonsillitis on the scar tissue. So yeah, basically I've been given a lot of bad luck. So hopefully I'll roll the dice in a 6. Hopefully
your
I'll
tonsils are gone.
Soon.
Why are you still getting tonsillitis? You got
I know. It has
to evolve from this point.
Yeah, and the surgeon said it'll last another 6 months probably of that. So, but I can still cast with that. It's just painful. That's all. Yeah, it's far from ideal. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Obviously, you pay a lot of money out there to be well in America. So hopefully,
we pay money. We don't get healthcare.
Yeah.
It goes somewhere else. I don't know where it goes.
I feel okay, but I'm also broke. So I don't know. Maybe it's working out for me. I'm not quite sure exactly, but
it's the journey of life that matters. Okay, it's not the end goal. You don't need mansions. You just need healthy. I don't know. Some people are healthy. You know what? Let's not go there again. Let's continue. Let's move on.
This is on the health podcast today. Yeah, man, Snodz, I want to start off kind of talking a little bit about you and kind of how you got into CS. And I've researched a bit. I know you got started in World of Warcraft, which, by the way, I was a level 60 Shadow Lock, unstoppable in PvP. So
what is a Shadow Lock? I don't even know what that is. I don't even know what Shadow Lock is.
Shadow Spec Warlock. That was a thing, right? It's been a while.
That's not a Shadow Priest or Action Warlock, one of the two.
Was it Destruction Path?
Hey, you're digging yourself a deeper hole here. Yeah, you're digging yourself a deeper hole here. It's just like on those shows where it's like they have the guests on and they have to like read their book. Obviously, they don't read the book, right? They just have like a researcher read it, pass on notes, and it's like, chapter 7 when you said this, I'm just there like, I never said that. Oh, what the hell are you on about, dude?
I had the spark.
Have you actually played World of Warcraft?
Yes, I did. I really did. I was level 60 Warlock.
Really?
I thought it was Shadow.
No, it's Affliction. How many? Okay, well, again, we're diverting here, much like my nose is diverted. But yeah, basically, played World of Warcraft, as you probably tell by the way I look at the moment. Played World of Warcraft and then got really, really good at it. Really, really good at it. One of the best. God, this sounds so cheesy. Elemental shamans in Europe. Started competing in tournaments, started making guides and stuff like that. Had the amazing opportunity to work in America for a few months as well. I lived in LA and Arizona for 3 months when I was 18. I was doing content out there for a company called Gamers League. It was actually really, really rich and made some opportunities from that. And I got into Counter-Strike because the World of Warcraft queues, like you'd have to queue, right? It's like 3 versus 3, and you'd play like a ladder, like ESEA. The ESEA queues would die at like, 2 a.m. And we obviously would be up to like 5, 6 a.m. playing games. So we were like, oh, we need something to do. So then that's how we got into Counter-Strike. We started playing matchmaking when the queues died. They ended up enjoying Counter-Strike a lot more than I enjoyed World of Warcraft. And then here I am now on this show.
Another victim CSGO has claimed.
All right.
Yeah. It's true. That is true.
Sounds good. I'm not going to try and quiz you anymore because clearly I'm on the. I read the wrong Spark notes. I was reading how to kill a mockingbird over here. This guy. All right, let's talk some CS. Right, let's get into the news this week. First off the bat, you got NRG, Mouse, and now FaZe just qualifying for the ESL Pro League Finals. Mouse Sports ahead of North Optic and X Space Soldiers, and then NRG over United, Renegades, and Ints. Okay, so pretty solid to see NRG kind of bouncing back, right, Bears? I'm sure you can get a smile on your face from that.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty excited that they were doing so well, and then I decided to watch their last series, and they kind of NRG. They kind of remind me of Team Liquid in a way, which is kind of scary. Where, if they're confident, if they're feeling it, they can run over a lot of these teams. But then they played against the Renegades in one of the best of 3 series, specifically in that little, I guess, the ESL thing. And they looked really bad in terms of, it seems like NRG is trying to force a lot of players too much all the time. And if you, I especially was kind of combing over their loss because they lost pretty bad against Team Renegades. They lost 16-3 on Inferno. I was wondering why. How is it possible that a team like NRG can lose so bad to Renegades and team on a map like Inferno? And so combing a lot of these rounds and stuff, and I noticed that Renegades, if you've been watching them last couple months, since the major, they've been a whole different team. Their teamwork's been solid. Even with Smooya filling in for Gratisfaction, he's been still performing the role pretty well, tossing the necessary smokes and flashes and whatnot, and then being kind of a post-up upper. A little different from Gratisfaction. But Energy, in factors, if they want to become I guess a true tier 1 team, I think there's still a lot of people's on the fence with, are these guys a tier 1? Are they a high tier 2? And I think they have a possibility to become that tier 1, a true top 10 team. But I feel like, especially the match you saw against Renegades, they're trying to force a lot of plays. Everyone's playing too much a playmaker role instead of maybe letting it come to them. It's way different than when they're winning, and if they play a team with good teamwork, it's harder for them to, come ahead in those situations. And I guess to wrap it up in a nutshell, they just have to have a game plan where they're not trying to force too many plays. I guess what I'm trying to say. Don't force it too much. Let the plays come to you. And they have the tactics. As the coach, they have a lot of different ways they can attack these a game plan. It's just they're trying to force it too much, way too much, and it hurts them. Gets them killed. They're up 2-on-5 situations and they lose it somehow. It's like, how is that even possible? How's that possible? But it happens to them quite a lot, and it happens a lot more against the Team Renegades.
Mm-hmm. I think it's tough, right? No, it's so cool. It's so cool. I think it's tough if you are NRG, right? Think of it this way: you just came back from Star Series, and you've had this exceptional run all the way to the semifinals. Obviously, NRG didn't have to play versus Strala, so a few of the top teams weren't at the event. But even so, getting top 4 of the Star Series with such a large prize pool, even Navi, and so these top teams that were still performing there, is still very, very impressive. And I think the problem for NRG is they've gone to Star Series, they came top 4, and then they go into Pro League, maybe a lot more than what they received, going up against the Renegades with a stand-in, going up against other teams which they should be beating on paper. United, for example. Wait, am I getting that confused with a different one? Let me just double-check that. But yeah, it was United. United, INTZ, for example. I imagine the Bears, what they're expecting is we just performed so well. We're coming into Pro League where we have teams that aren't exactly top caliber. Let's look at some of their wins. I mean, to lose versus Smooya's Renegades, when the week before that you beat Vitality 2-0, obviously just won the Belgium event. You beat Big, Smooth's former team 2-0. You beat MIBR as well, North 2-1. you have this exceptional land, and then you go all the way to America, back to America, you play, and you end up 2-1 to Renegades. And obviously, in that matchup, it was close. Quickly look.
Except for the last map. It was pretty close,
exactly.
except for the last map.
Inferno where Smooya was just crazy. Let me quickly take a look at it. Yeah, I mean, the things to take away as well. You're looking at Mirage as the first map, 16-12 win for Renegades, but there's a 12-3 CT half from NRG in the first half of that best of 3, and then Renegades won 13 rounds in a row to make it 16-12. They didn't lose a single round on their CT side.
That's impressive.
Again, yeah, that's going to tilt anyone, right? That's going to make anyone upset. Then you go on to Train, and they win 16-14, close matchup, 8-7 at the half, 9-6 as the game concluded, so a very, very even matchup. And then you go on to Inferno, and I always think it's better to have best of 3s like this, where first map is close, obviously the 13-0 on CT side's crazy. Then you have the 16-14 on Train, NRG in their heads are thinking, God, this should be a 2-0 for us. We should have won, 16-7 after 12-3. We've just won 16-14 on Train. This should be over. And then you go into Inferno, you have to mentally reset. And it's also treated like a best of 1. So that amazing play you had prior means nothing. They get 12-3'd on their CT side. And Smooya, let's see how many kills he had in Inferno. I mean, Smooya was just dominating. 20 kills, but 111 ADR. So exceptional performance there from him. And I think that's really what caught them off guard. You have an amazing week at Star Series. Also, if you're Renegades as well, you haven't gone to Star Series, you haven't gone to Blast Pro Series Miami, which means you have all the VODs to watch back, and they're not going to change anything in the space of a few days. So you have the prep to do.
Yeah, that's actually a pretty good point.
To prep. Yeah.
That's a pretty good point that the Renegades had more time for them.
Well, time and VODs as well. Yeah, time and recent VODs to go over. And I think the anti-stratting played a role. And I think maybe I'm going on a rant here as well, DaBears, but I think a point which might prove that is if we look at Renegades, now coming into this, again, look at your group. If you're Renegades, you're thinking E United, we can take them. INTZ, I mean, who even are they? Let's just take them out. And then you see NRG, and that's like the big scary team in this group. You versus NRG, who's going to take that top spot? Who's going to qualify for the finals? And Renegades ended up losing 0-2 to E United. Very one-sided, remember, as well. But they won 2-1 versus NRG in a very close matchup. So what that shows me is Renegades coming into this Pro League in America, they put all of the time and effort into researching NRG, basically dissecting NRG's demos, their game, how can they counter them. And then versus E United, they may have put 1/10 of the time, if that, into studying E United, and they got caught off guard. They lost 0-2. So that's just my analysis of it. The idea that Renegades put a lot more effort into counter-stratting. I think the proof is the loss to E United. That shouldn't be happening, especially to be that one-sided as well.
Yeah, the loss against United was really one-sided. Looking at the scores, is 16-6 and 16-9, and now that's very uncharacteristic for, let's say, Renegades, who's probably considered a top maybe 8 or I think at least top 8 in the world right now. I think after the major, they've just shot up in the rankings so far. They've been consistent in terms of that. And then, as you're saying, them putting all their time and energy researching, it probably makes a lot of sense because they shouldn't be losing that bad to E United. Now, E United does have potential. They do have that talent to upset some teams, but they've been kind of in a rough patch themselves in the last couple of months, again, with roster changes and this kind of shuffling up between relics and whatnot and that team. But now they kind of have a considerable stable roster-ish for the last, I guess, say, month. And so let's see if United is able to build off that. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. NRG beat United pretty convincingly as well, 2-0. So
but
interesting.
Also for Renegades, Renegades were also a Star Series, but whenever you bring on Greatest Faction can't get the visa from America, whenever you have a stand-in, you always go over the basics and you always put in those extra hours because you have a stand-in. You suddenly have to reformulate, recalibrate your CT sides, rethink your T side structures. So you are going to put the hours in there. And I think that's the difference. NRG come from a top 4 finish. The same team coming to Pro League, they look at the group thinking, okay, the best team here is a stand-in. We should be beating these teams. And then obviously Renegades have a stand-in with Smooya last minute. They have like a week. Well, I knew about it a few weeks prior, so they knew about this. They're 2 weeks advanced knowing this. But you know you have Smooya, you know you don't have your full lineup, and it's Pro League. You have to take this serious. They're the ones who are going to put in those hours to watch those demos. Those are the ones who are going to put in the prep and anti-strike NRG, and I think it showed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think this. I want to get your. Yeah, I want to ask you a question. Actually, sorry to take your role here, Cody. Okay. I want to ask, what do you think is next for Smooya, DaBears? Because obviously he's had this performance in Inferno. He's had 111 ADR. He top fragged versus NRG in that best of 3 series. However, with Mouse Sports, obviously we'll speak about them shortly, Mouse Sports also making it out of the group in Europe. That's one of those international teams which Smooya could have maybe joined. When you have an English-speaking Brit, as Smooya is, where does he go when you look at the top 15, the top 20 rankings in the world? Where does he end up? What do you think?
Ooh, that's
a good question, right? Yeah. He did well in this standing position.
It's tough because a lot of teams, at least in the last like 3-4 months, like a lot of teams kind of been dismantled in terms of trying to make these super teams like Maus, Space Soldiers and these other teams like Big, who kind of dismantled Xantaras from the Space Soldiers and kind of ruined that team in a way. Major kind of went to the LC team, and they haven't been doing too well. We talk about that later. But as for a top European team, I mean, if he's English, like I wouldn't like mind if he plays for North America either. I mean, he has a chance. Like obviously, he would want Europe. Europe has always been a little better in terms of just overall CS:GO. You have the Dane scene.
There's the money there. That's the problem.
The money, I know, yeah. So if it's more kind of you want money, a team to build off of, I think they could definitely work something with North America.
Top 20. But where? Which team? You've got to give me names here.
Not
even top 20, but a team which would be worth going across the Atlantic Ocean for. One which is worth going all the way across the world for that. It'd have to be the right opportunity. Like I mean, even just looking at the. I'll let you finish.
No, I thought C9 would be kind of a good example because I know I like Automatic on the AWP, but I feel like he could do more on the rifle. And I mean, C9 would probably be the only, I guess, team he would want to join to cross seas because it has money, it has a big fan base, it has a lot of potential. Problem with C9 though, they kind of switch around the players a lot, or at least this last year they haven't had a stable roster. And C9 outside the scenes, I don't know if you 100% want to work for them. I don't know. That's probably saying too much, but it's a riskier like organization. They want results. They want to do well, and so you have to hit the ground running with C9 if you want to stay with them. But I'd say C9 would definitely be one of the top choices for them. Maybe for European, I don't know. Like North
is Cloud9 even top 30 anymore? I don't even think they're top 30 anymore.
No, they're not top 30 anymore. I'm looking at the stat or the rank right now, and they're not even top 30. But I mean, they're one tournament away.
They have the money, yeah.
I mean, if they do well in one tournament, they're able to get shut up easily between top 20, most likely. But just looking at the other, like, it's just there's hardly any North American teams.
It's not just that, but when you look at the world rankings, right? Astralis, obviously, he's not Danish, doesn't speak Danish. Liquid, they're not going to make a change after the constant finals they've had. I mean, back-to-back finals at Miami and Sao Paulo. Your problem isn't your players or AWPing, it's, the pressure situations, etc. Who else? I mean, Snow, Navi, no, FaZe. I mean, you're not going to replace Guardian, the brand that guy has, FaZe, the games that guy has, the history. MLBR, obviously, no. Renegades, could you replace Gratisfaction for Smooya permanently? Do you want to after getting, top 8 at the major, top 4 at the last Star Series? Gratisfaction's a part of the Oceanic region as well, coming from New Zealand. He fits the brand well. You've already got your European in Jacob. I mean,
I'd say no,
Alu,
because they want to keep Oceanic except for JCam. He's the only one probably an exception.
Right? And then you've got NIP tried Alu. I mean, 2015, 2016, made it to the final of the major. Gosh, that was years ago now, maybe 4 years ago at this point, and that didn't really work out too well. So they're probably not going to take that risk again. Fnatic, Vitality, no. NRG, you're really going to replace Cirque. You got him at such a bargain price. He has his ups, he has his downs, but he does have those performances where he peaks, and he is phenomenal. North. I mean, I don't think this is a team that wants to really stray away from not speaking Danish and not being Danish. Obviously, they're sponsored by FC Copenhagen. It's a big part of it. G2, I mean, obviously, they had the stint with Mixwell, but that was like dire situations, you know.
And he's also kind of a hybrid player. It kind of works.
Yeah, over Lucky. I mean, maybe Valiance. Obviously, Valiance are English speaking now. They're international of Esperanto and Otto and Nexa. But then Otto is your primary AWPer. Yeah, I mean, it could. But then, you know, Valiance, do they have the money for the buyout of Big? That's the question. Do they have the buyout for the money of Big and the salary? I'm not sure. And Otto's been performing fairly well.
I don't. Until he starts putting up huge numbers consistently, I don't think people want to spend the money to buy him out, knowing that, you know, he has a toxic history. Kind of like, I don't say the black sheep or anything, but you know, a lot of teams, it rubs teams the wrong way. You know, like you're playing against a team, you're talking shit, and then all of a sudden, hey, look, pick me up, guys, I'm free now. Some teams like, fuck that guy. You know, if someone was really toxic towards me, play against him, I'd be like, screw that guy.
I mean, I can see what you mean, right? He has had that in the past, those issues, like a year ago, especially when he first like rose onto the scene. But that's also him coming from the English, the UK Counter-Strike scene, which was, you know, everyone is so insecure in UK Counter-Strike that they all just flame each other to bring everyone else down to make themselves feel validated. But it's also a way of getting attention. You know, think about this. Would you know Smooya as well as you do now, or know of his name as well as you do now, if he was the polite, you know, yes, sir, yes, please, yes, thank you. Do you know what I mean? If he was that kind of persona, or if he was out there saying some outrageous statements, some black and white statements, some stuff that, you know, like Marmite, you love him or you hate him, but that is a part of his brand, and that is a part of what he is, you know. And I think that's why he has done so well for himself in terms of having 50K followers on Twitter, having such a high Twitter analytic count, and all this part of his brand is the fact that he's so outspoken, and being outspoken is a part of what he is. But yeah, I think under the right
now, that's what's popular right now is being that outspoken, disrespectful kind of person. You know, look, Conor McGregor, he's pretty much just completely changed around the social media in terms of talking smack, and it's the wave right now. And you're right, a lot of it has to do with him, you know, being that kind of individual, but also, again, the other part of it is him playing well during that time. It was almost like the perfect wave. He was playing on top of his game, and he was being really outspoken. And the wins were at the time big. It was being backed up. They were doing exceptionally well during that time. And then as soon as he fell off, I mean, everything kind of got unrailed with Big and him, and I guess his potential in terms of I guess making these other teams. But as you said before, I'm looking at all these teams, and a lot of these teams have pretty solid AWPers in general.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to speak
is
more
not
about
known
Ghost.
for rifling. Ghost, but they have
you might speak
like
Wardell. Yeah, I was about to say he's like an up and coming AWPer. You know, he's one of these people who's touted to be like the next NA talent. Do you really want to take that risk and remove him when you got him so cheap? Again, it comes down to money. And if you're an org, when you do these flips, do you want to buy Smee when he's this expensive, or do you want to wait another few months until Big releases him and his contract ends and he's free? You know, how much is that contract? Is it worth the risk? And are the opportunities here just after the major and teams have established their teams?
Yeah, for him not to get picked up, Big's I don't even know how much they're asking for. I don't know if it's been published, but it has to be, you know, in the at least $50,000, because, you know, these tier 1 organizations, they have that money to kind of throw around. But there's a gigantic leap between tier 1 organizations and then tier 2 in terms of money wise in general. And so I can't see Smooya being released from Big, or I mean, I can't see anyone buying out Smooya's contract. I think they're going to wait for sure. So it sucks for him unless you have something inside or that.
Well, no. Even if I did, I wouldn't say it. But look who's below Ghost, number 18, right? Big. The actual team he's currently benched from. And when we look at their past performances, you know, Star Series 0-2 loss to NRG, 0-2 loss to Vitality, 0-2 loss to Alliance, to Na'Vi. They lost to Windigo in the qualifier for Dreamhack Dallas. You know, they've had these, 0-3 at the major, for example. Obviously, the major they attended before in London with the Face It major, they came top 8. At what point do Big go, okay, you know, this Antares project, maybe it hasn't worked as well as we thought it was, bringing in some of these Turkish whose English isn't the best, whose playstyle maybe is a bit too individualistic for the team player that Gobby wants to establish for his team. At what point do they go, do you know what, we do have this star AWPer on our bench. When do they pick him back up, or do they trial him again? What happens? That could be very real.
Yeah, it could be very real, and I mean, it's a possibility. Hunteris, I mean, like he was amazing. Like the first couple matches,
First 5 months,
first joined.
Until Cologne. Oh, amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, he played. He was like dropping way more kills, plus minus in his entire team for pretty consistently, and then all of a sudden he's kind of dropped off. Maybe he got comfortable. I don't know what it is, but it's not the same Xantaras that we saw at the start, and so it's a good point. Should we bring back this opera, like Tapson playing kind of that opera role? I'm assuming he's been playing the opera role, because he's usually the kind of hybrid player beforehand when Smooya was playing, and so. But like, was Smooya benched from Big because of his skill, or was it more of I guess the practicing, the small things outside the game that really kind of put him away? Because I mean, he wasn't doing that bad when they were losing, but he got replaced pretty quickly. So I'm thinking to say that maybe it's like an immaturity kind of issue is why he got replaced so fast.
I mean, it's fairly well known now that obviously he didn't get along too well with the team, and it's also pretty well known that he didn't bench himself like he has done in prior teams, where he would bench himself he did it with Endpoint, my former team. He benched himself because he had an offer from Epsilon, and he didn't want to play for Endpoint, and Endpoint didn't want to sell him, and he was in this big argument with the owner. So he benched himself, he refused to play, and then obviously the owner was left with no option but to sell him. Again, one would say that's so immature, but then again, that attitude is what got him to this point on this podcast where we're talking about him. If he had just, suck up the fact that, okay, I will listen to my org owner, I will just sit on the bench, or I will just play for this team, and, how do you even word that? I mean, in the situation where you give your life to try and go pro, I mean, literally, right, dropping out of college, playing all these hours, putting his life into this to once get the opportunity to go full-time, because the Endpoint salary wasn't full-time in England. You have this opportunity to finally go full-time with Epsilon, and you get denied it. That would send anyone insane, right? And he was like 17, 18 at the time. So don't judge him to that level you would judge yourself now in your 20s. So, but then again, I mean, it worked out for him. And the question is going forward, with the performance he had for Renegades, it was strong, especially in the game versus NRG. It shows he can hang at that top 15, top 10 level. But the issue is right now the opportunities just aren't there. So he's going to have to wait for the next cycle of roster changes. That's what it's going to be, I think.
Yeah, and then much going to stay on top of that FPL.
Does Complexity, does an E United or whatever that offers him the potential low 5 figures a month. Where it's like, oh, okay, maybe I don't play for a top 10 team in the world. I play for a top 30 team, but I'm getting 6 figures a year. What trade-off do you have at that point?
That's a good point. I really didn't think about the future of Smooya, right? But like, I've been scrolling up and down the HLTV list, and it's like you don't really know where he's going to fit in. And I think
it's a good point, right?
It's a great point. I really didn't think you blew me out of the water. I'm being upstaged right now. I'm just pass you the host crown, Snodz, right now.
Yeah, well, my bank account is this number.
Let's talk about a little bit about Mouse, right? So this is a new roster, and obviously you got Kerrigan now, Woxic, Frozen. They went 3-0 over North Optic and XSS. Kind of trying to pull up the scores right now, and they performed good. They pretty much blew North out of the water, 16-4 on Train, 16-5 on Mirage. And now this is kind of like the first glimpse of this new roster, right? With Kerrigan and Woxic.
Yeah, they've been. I mean, just recently that they've been together. Let me see how long together. It's about a month. About a month, right? Around for a month.
Gosh, I mean, let me take a look. It would have been after the major or shortly after.
So it's been since
January to
March.
A month, about 6 weeks, I think, since the roster has actually been established. First time they played was versus Fnatic. Yeah, Fnatic at ECS. So yeah, a month.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised on how well they started off. Usually when you have like a mixed team like this, playing at this high of a level, there's a kind of a learning curve a time period where you have to kind of, go over your strats, remake strats. Okay, what do you like? You like doing this? Okay, let's adjust. I'll play my game plan. But Kerrigan, again, he hops around in a team and he instantly makes that team that good. Now, the problem with Kerrigan, he couldn't win championships. That's always has been his problem ever since he was on Team Secret or TSM way back in the day, at least in most recent times. He can get a team to the championship. He can get a team deep in playoffs, but he can never ever win, or it seems like he never wins that championship. It's like all the stars have to line perfectly for him to do it. So with that being said, he does a great job with the kind of like with what kind of the coordination team has to play, the basic strats, what to get to that point. He seems like he's been doing an amazing job. And to, take new players like Woxic, who's on Hellraisers, coming over, and also Frozen, who's more, I think, recognized as an FPL player. And then he, just, I guess, like a year or two ago, got into high level, I guess, tier 1, tier 2 play. He's been doing well as well. I watched their matches against North, and they just stomped North. Like, it wasn't even close, and they looked crisp, like on train. Like, everyone knew where to toss their nades, what routes to take, the smokes they have to throw. It looked like they've been a team for months and months and months, and that's pretty impressive. So I'm wondering what their practice regimen is to get everyone on that same page, and what they do behind the scenes. So I'm pretty impressed by Mouse Sports, Kerrigan, and all them.
Yeah, they've come out gunning so far. Go on.
No, I'll let you go. So I've hogged the mic so much.
It's all good. I'm just saying, yeah, they've come out gunning so far. It's kind of, I was a little bit excited about the new mouse because I love Woxic as an opper, so I'm excited to see him at the Pro League, in the finals right now. So it's good to see them.
Interesting point you made, DaBears, about the fact that they looked so regimented. So I was reading actually for preparation for this about 2 hours ago. I was reading the interview Fallen had at last Pro Series Miami, and he mentioned the fact that they made the roster change. They bring in Taco, they bring in Phelps, they bring in Zeus as their coach, and immediately they had less than a month, a few weeks to prep for the major. They go into the major, they come top 4, they lose versus Stratus. Fair enough, that's expected to happen in the narrative of Counter-Strike at the moment. And then they go to this event, Blast Pro Series. Well, they had Sao Paulo, where they just crumbled under the pressure. Then they're straight into Miami. Again, they didn't make it out into the finals. Obviously, they had the very good win versus Stratus and whatnot, but even so. But one of the things that Fallen mentioned was the problem of coming into a tournament instantly after establishing yourself as a team and not having the time to create the foundations, to create the CT setups, to create the strategies, to create the foundation, as I said, and the depth in your strategy and your strat book to be an effective team from the get-go. And that's the problem that Fallen's suffering with now. And I think it's the opposite for Mouse Sports, because when did Mouse Sports fail the minor? Let me take a look. So the minor was January the 17th.
Back in January, yeah.
Yeah, so from that point on, they knew that there were going to be changes to the roster. So the question is, they've had, February, March, and now we're into the middle of April, and it was played April 12th, so it's just under 3 months, essentially, since the mine knockout. Let's say they had, I don't know, a month to build this roster. Obviously, Kerrigan had to get the kick from FaZe before he joined this team. Or not FaZe, but he played the major with Envious. And then he obviously kind of knew, Envious, he knew he was coming into this team. And with that, they've had maybe, I would argue, close to 2 months, or a month and a half, at least 6 weeks, where they've played some online ECS tournaments. Fair enough, it's online, but it's not at LAN where you have to go those 16, 20-hour travel days to, ECS would have been in America, and they're based in Europe. They didn't have these long journeys, didn't have these events to go to, which meant they just kept their heads down. They played 6 weeks where they've practiced under Kerrigan. They all respect Kerrigan as an in-game leader. They have these heavily motivated players, because when you look at some of the players on Mouse Sports, obviously Woxic came from Hellraisers, who won the minor. But when we're looking at Frozen,
FPL
especially,
person?
Exactly, Woxic FPL, Frozen FPL. Right. But this is their big opportunity. This is their opportunity to do something in Counter-Strike and to be a star player, not just in FPL, but in international Counter-Strike. And I think the motivation behind this team really, really shows. You have a lot of youth on this team, balanced out by the age and the veteranism of Carrigan and Chris J. Carrigan, old by esports standards. Chris J is 28. Rops is extremely young. Froze is extremely young. Woxix, 20 years old. So you have this balance where you have experienced players, the youth, they're motivated. They have 6 weeks off as well. And to top it all off, the cherry on the cake is the fact that the group wasn't really that difficult compared to Star Series, which was going on at the same time, compared to Last Pro Series, Sao Paulo, Miami. These events had much tougher opposition than, say, North, then, say, which other team did they beat? North, Optic. And X-Space Soldiers, So I think the practice, the stars aligning with the roster, added into the caliber of teams they're playing, it did kind of make them look better, maybe better than they really are. So
that's actually a pretty good point that you make about the type of players on the team. You take Rops, Woxic, and Frozen. They pretty much FPL stars that got recruited by teams, and so they kind of come from the same boat. Maybe they have like a camaraderie that, hey, we're all FPL players once, now we're on teams, so that kind of helps them push a little bit. They got Kerrigan, who definitely has a chip on his shoulder from years of being called the worst player on FaZe, worst player here, insert worst player, and Kerrigan's name will pop up here and there. And people forget that it's not about just executing in game, getting frags, but as in-game leader, you got to come with a game plan. You got to make those micro adjustments between matches and teams that you play against and stuff like that. So he does a lot of homework and other work outside the game that you can't see from just in-game stats. And so he's always, obviously, there's nothing more like a big F you to everybody. Every team he goes to, they turn into gold. They turn into a team where they become a contender. And then you got Chris J, on the other hand, who also kind of has a chip on his shoulder, getting benched by Mouse Sports multiple times throughout his career in order just to be brought back on, very shortly after that. And so he wants to continue his legacy that, okay, Mouse Sports is going to be his home to stay until he retires. He's been on the team for so long. Why wouldn't you want to do that,
Why wouldn't you want to do that? Carrigan's been on and off Mouse Sports since 1.6, I believe, 2012 or so. So, yeah. There is history there. And obviously the history is in the right places. It's not as if you have these players who are older, who are past their prime, past their time. No, Mouse Sports was a top 5 team in the world when Chris J, Oscar, and all them were performing lights out. You then get Kerrigan, who's come off of FaZe. Yes, they're in a bit of a slump, but even so, one of the top 5 teams in the world, and he is reinvigorated. He has a chip on his shoulder, as you said. Great point to make, because that adds to the motivation. That adds to the fact that this team has to succeed, as it could be the last chance for a few of these players.
I agree across the boards. I think the dynamic of the roster is probably the most interesting part that you brought up, Snodz, and that Bears you piggybacked on. You have Chris J, Rops, who are stars of Mouse Sports, Kerrigan, yes, a veteran of the game. And obviously then you have Woxic and Frozen, who are like young, hungry players, right? You know what I mean? So you have the older guys, people that have been in the organization, a little bit of star power in the form of Kerrigan, and the younger ones you kind of take under your wing and say, go out and do the work for us. You know what I mean? You're hungry, be motivated. I think that's a good point for Mouse Sports. And Barn, they didn't have the toughest group, right? In the qualifier.
Yeah, let me see. What was their group? Let me see, events.
So it was North, Optic, and X-Space Soldiers for the Pro League qualifier.
Optic should have been a lot tougher. North should have been a lot tougher. I don't understand that team North, to be honest. I've seen replays of them where they look like they could be the next top 5 team, and then I see replays of them like, what are they doing? It's very inconsistent across the board with them, and watching Mouse Sports dismantle them, North looked like a pug. They looked like a pug that they didn't practice or whatever. It's kind of weird. So very interesting what they're going, but I guess you could say easier group compared to others.
It's true. It's tough as well when you think about North. I always speak about past performances and momentum, because I think momentum in Counter-Strike is a massive factor when you have these teams, especially, MSL doesn't lead North anymore. He's with Optic, but that was the thing with MSL, was he had that stint in North with the momentum all the way into the one Dreamhack Masters just before the major. But Star Series for North. I mean, they lost in the semifinals, I believe, they lost in the quarterfinals versus Fanatics. But they had, the 2-0 win versus MIBR. They had the 2-1 win versus Vitality. 2-1 win versus Vitality was online, but they're also beating Virtus Pro, Avangar. These teams online, they were performing rather well. And then it comes into LAN, and, excuse my French here, but they shit the bed.
Yeah.
They lose versus Optic 2-1. They had the 2-0 win versus X-Space Soldiers, but then again, X-Space Soldiers, God knows what's going on with that one. And obviously they had the loss versus Mousesports, and it wasn't just a loss, it was a massacre. 16-4 on Train, 16-5 on Mirage as well. And no one really performing for North. Everyone going negative on that team. AZ, Kiabi, 5 kills on Train. And then the next one, 14 on Mirage. But super, super struggling. I mean, he won the major on that map, but obviously that was years and years ago. And I'm really just going off on a tangent here. But for North, it's tough. They have this quarterfinal LAN placement at Star Series, but the problem is how much stock can you really invest in that result? Because there's no Astralis. There's a few other top teams who weren't there because they were at Blast Pro Series instead. So what that means is, yes, you've got top 8 at a 250k LAN, but there's still the asterisk there where some of the best teams in the world weren't attending. So would you have got top 8 if Astralis were there, if Liquid were there? Probably not. So that's the problem. Not. If they keep if they keep having these group exit performances, at what point does North pull the plug on this and make another drastic change?
Might be about that time, honestly.
It's getting there. It's getting there. It's definitely getting there. And then obviously Optic, right? I mean, DaBears, what do you think? Sorry, I'm doing your job again, Cody. Sorry. But I want to get your take on this as well. Is Optic, obviously, Optic beat 2-1, overtime on Overpass, 16-11 on Nuke, but they did have the loss on Train, but they won 2-1 versus North. Like, for this Optic team, what's your take on them? And I'll ask you as well, Cody, afterwards.
To be honest, I haven't watched too much of Optic with MSL joining the roster and whatnot. But if I were to shoot in the dark on, usually the problem, or not problem, but like MSL seems to be like that methodical kind of player where every team he goes to, a lot of defaults, a lot of like kind of just work the map methodically, and some people, that's a good strength to have. Like kind of laying down the baseline and the foundation of a team. But in order to go above and beyond, in order to be like, top 10 team of the world, you have to do a little bit more. And that little bit more is something that MSL has always lacked in terms, I guess, I don't know, being kind of wild. Like he's always so, I don't know, their play styles have always been so methodical, and wild is something you never see from MSL. So, I can't say what Optic's been doing right now, but usually that's been the problem with MSL and whoever team that he would coach, or not coach, but I guess in-game lead.
He's almost like a curse.
Yeah, you need to have the whole structure, right? Fallen spoke about it in an interview as well, that same interview I referred to earlier, about the meta shifting into more of an aggressive style on the T side. Terrorists playing more for information now, not really back on defaults and, let's hold for 40 seconds, take map control, and then execute. That meta is sort of dying out now. It's becoming more of an aggressive, not individualistic, but information gathering plays to then make the best mid-run call to then execute on the right side, etc. And MSL's passive playstyle may not fall into that. But Cody, what were you going to say? What was your point on Optic?
No, I'm kind of with Bears. I have not seen that much of Optic's gameplay recently. I think that like midway through 2018, like last season, they were doing quite well. They got second at the GG Bet Shuffle, second against NRG at CS Summit 3. Like they were a good team. They were fun to watch. They were exciting. I have not seen them with MSL. I thought Refresh was a good pickup for them, but I do like Yugi, and obviously I'm a big fan of Config. So yeah, I'm definitely going to keep my eye on them. But yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, but let's speak about Yugi, because Optic is now a six-man roster.
Yeah.
And the roster that went to Pro League Finals didn't have Yugi. And this is what was the really big surprising point for me. If you look at the Mousesports game, they lose 2-1, okay? and it's not really too close. I mean, each team takes their map 16-7, 16-4, 16-11, so it's fairly convincing. There's no overtimes, there are 16-14s, but you've got Nico, Refresh, Config, Snappy, MSL. Now, the former Optic in-game leader was Snappy from Heroic.
Okay.
And then you bring in MSL and Yugi's on the bench. So my first question is,
weird.
Who's primary opping? My second question is, who's in-game leading? And my third question is, where the hell is Yugi?
Yeah.
Because I remember...
he's usually like
it's a valid...
sometimes.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, his performance has dipped in the past few months. Maybe that's motivation. Obviously, the rumors about joining Cloud9. Is he not happy on Optic? I don't know. Or has he just joined? But whatever. Was he not happy? I don't know. But to solve all those problems of who's in-game leading, who's AWPing, and what's Yugi doing, is bringing Yugi on to be the AWP and have MSL cool. That's how I envisioned the Optic team when I saw the announcement. And that's how I imagined the team would play out. On paper, I think that's how it looks best. So yeah, obviously, a bit of a rhetorical question here, but hashtag, where's Yugi? Where has he gone? Some of the games for Pro League, actually, when we were casting Heroic maybe 6 months ago, we were told that Yugi was ill and they had to have replacements. Well, even then, Heroic tweeted about it, and they said, Yugi won't be playing for the next 3 weeks. He's got an illness or whatever. But I haven't seen anything on social media about the lack of Yugi and where he's gone. So I don't know.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point. Especially against teams like Mouse Sports, where you have Woxic, who
need the firepower.
Pretty consistently known operator. You got Chris J that can op as well, or at least scout. Like Optic, where's your opper? Like, who is the opper when Yugi's not in the lineup? And every good team has a solid opper. That's how it is right now. Oppers are huge impact players. It's, you could use range, get that insta kill, anywhere from above their waist, and that could be a huge easy pick in Counter-Strike. And Optic not having the opper, that's a good point. Who's going to be calling? Is MSL calling with Nico on there too? And I don't know, they might have some kind of system where they both kind of put in their input, but that can create, hesitation, maybe calling over each other, that kind of stuff. You can see that becoming a problem possibly. The opper, where's Yugi? Because he did have inconsistency issues with Optic sometimes. Like he kind of like the Draken thing where he'd miss these,
and it was on certain maps
shots
as well. Cobblestone, I think it was Inferno. I'm trying to remember it in my head. Inferno Mirage, he was exceptional, but then other maps he really struggled to find his stride. So that was a part of the inconsistency as well, was depending on the map pick and the map pool that Heroic and now obviously Optic had at the time.
Yeah, I'm curious if they're going to actually use him as a true sixth man and put him in maps where they think, okay, this team might have strong opper, let's put in Yugi. Maybe to counter that out a little bit, or just have him as the sixth person and just keep on the bench the entire time, because we haven't seen this. Yeah. We haven't seen this yet in esports, or at least in Counter-Strike esports, which kind of baffles my mind. The teams are still sticking to 5-person rotations in terms of how much, especially how many matches a lot of these pro teams have, a lot of tournaments. They're still sticking to 5-team core roster, and of course the arguments, if you keep switching up players, you miss teamwork and chemistry. But that's obviously something for if you didn't play as much CS. But a lot of these teams are playing 10 hours a day, every day, for 350 days a year. It's like there's no time off in this game, and I'm surprised more teams haven't been utilizing that 6-man roster more.
It's funny because don't take this in a bad way, but it seems like a lot of American pundits, I guess is the way to put it, always mention the 6-man roster, because obviously I think the NBA or the draft, whatever, they constantly swap out players in like the American squads. But I think that's why obviously you have this. What's the best way of phrasing this? You like the idea of the 6-man roster because it emulates basketball or whatever, where it is very successful. How many people are in a basketball team? 11? I don't know. I've never played it.
Something like that.
How many people?
At least on the bench.
Yeah, exactly.
On the bench.
And exactly. And the problem is, you have 11 players in basketball. You have 5 in Counter-Strike. And when you one player in 11, it's going to have a 8% difference. Just use the maths, right? You drop out one player, like it's a 20% difference on the game, and that is quite a jarring difference. And I think that might be the reason why. Maybe if esports had rosters of 10 and you had 10 players on an esports team, maybe that's when 12, 13-man rosters would be very prevalent, because swapping them out wouldn't be quite so detrimental to team play. That's just a food for thought. Something I've noticed. Cody, I don't know what your thoughts are on. Yeah, there you go.
I would take subs. You know what I mean? Someone's a little winded, not playing too good. Hit the bench. So you got to ride the wood right now. No, I think it's all great points about Optic. I think they have a pretty interesting squad, right? Like as it is on paper. Yugi, I don't know where he's at either, but we'll follow along with Optic. I will certainly try to catch more of them, but in the interest of time, I want to talk a little bit about Dreamhack Masters Dallas. We don't have to spend too much time on this, but the final roster was finalized with Lucid Dream, right? And if we could pull up a graphic of the teams here, we'll just jump right into that, so we could take a quick look.
Video.
This lineup is
this is the trailer, right? About Wolves.
Juicy. Yeah, this is the trailer. You could take a nice peek at this. It's pretty clean, and I think they gave one to like each team to roll out. It's like Renegades. I don't know if you saw the tweet from Renegades. It was actually quite funny. They said something like, "We've got a cowboy hat in our on our logo, so it's close enough. We should be in Dallas, right?" It's actually quite funny. But if we can pull up the teams, you can kind of see the star power at the event. You got C9, maybe not the first to mention in the star power line, but you got Ends, FaZe, Fnatic, Liquid, Ninjas, NRG, Renegades, Vitality has been doing amazingly. Furia, I think that this lineup is super juicy. What are you guys thinking so far? Just first thoughts looking at this.
Do you want to go first, DaBears, or can I take it?
You can take it first. I'll follow up.
Oh god, my microphone. One sec. You take it first because my microphone's just had a bit of a mare.
All right. So you see a lot of tier 1 teams. You got Ents been doing really well. Energy, Vitality, and Renegade. Well, okay, let me take that back. Some tier 1, 2 teams, including with Team Liquid and Renegades and stuff. And then you have teams like Isurus and Lucid Dream, who are kind of like, who are those players? So it'd be a good opportunity. It'll be a good opportunity to see newer, fresh faces on LAN. Maybe they could upset some teams. Maybe they can make a run. Who knows? It has been done before. But again, it's stacked against them. It looks very interesting. As for a team that will probably take it, I mean, you always have to say Liquid. They can make it to the finals, but can they win the tournament? I don't know. That's a whole different ball game. And then you got FaZe, who's been doing pretty well, who just won their last tournament. But it's just like, can they replicate it? Because Blast Series was kind of a little question mark in terms of a lot of best of 1 series up till the final. And so it's not really the best indicator for, what teams are really hot right now. So it kind of like, it's a fun event. FaZe won, they did well, but can they do it again? Can they do it in best of 3 series and that kind of stuff? So it'll be interesting to see how teams like Cloud9 will stack up. They haven't been doing too hot lately with their new lineup. They've been losing every single match at Blast Pro Series. They lost every match. Coming up to IEM, they lost a couple of series. Now, granted, it is with their old roster, but with their new roster, they haven't been doing well. So it'll be interesting to see how Cloud9, will this be the event to show that this is a real team or not?
They got a much easier path to go than as opposed to Blast Miami, but continue, Snodz.
Yeah, no. I mean, off the bat, I think the big, I don't want to say problem in this event because it's going to be an amazing event, but I think the big problem here is there's no Na'Vi, there's no Astralis, there's no MIBR, and already you're looking at 3 teams out of the top 5 or the top 6 which aren't going to be in attendance. So what does that mean? Well, if you're Liquid and you win, well, you're supposed to win, so you don't really get anything out of that apart from extra cash or the prize pool. If you're Ents, this could maybe be one of these events where you can really establish yourself as, a top 5 team in the world. People are speaking about the run they've had since the major, going into Star Series, going into the major itself, and coming to events like this to show that they are here to hang with the big dogs. FaZe, again, can they go, I don't want to say back-to-back because there's going to be events in between this one. I believe this event's in early June or late May. But even so, FaZe, they want to show that the Blast Pro Series Miami win wasn't a fluke. But again, it's kind of the same storyline with Liquid, where if FaZe win it, well, they're supposed to win it. There's no Na'Vi. There's no MIBR, or MIBR maybe not, but there's no Astralis and Na'Vi to try and take it. So that's at the top end of the spectrum. Then you look at the middle parts of the spectrum. You're looking at Vitality, Renegades. Again, same sort of storyline here where they need wins or at least semifinals to really establish themselves within the upper echelons of Tier 2 and the lower echelons of Tier 1. And then you go to the bottom of the barrel and you look at teams like G2, you look at teams like North, and you start to think, okay, a poor performance here, gents, and this could be it. Personally, I think this could be the last straw for a team like G2.
Yeah.
If they go out in groups and they lose to a Wendigo, and they lose to Wendigo, then they lose to Furia, or they beat. I mean, say they beat Furia, they lose to Wendigo, then they get 2-1'd by. God, let me just think of a team which would make sense by an NIP or by an NRG. And if they lose to NRG, for example, at that point you think, okay, do we just cut our losses here and rebuild again? Right. Who knows? Who knows? Or maybe they just focus on Rainbow Six. They got the best Rainbow Six team in the world. Do they give more attention to that?
I think that might be the case for them.
I'm being genuine. I am being genuine.
Yeah.
Well, how do you establish this? I think
it's weird.
Yeah, whenever you have these events where they lack the best teams in the world, it's where the teams that are like top 5 or a Liquid, for example, who's considered the second best team in the world, they have to win. FaZe Clan, they have to win. And then when you look at the Vitalities and the NRGs, this is the tournament where they can try and get to a semi-final to show that they hang in the upper echelons of Tier 2. And for some of these teams, losses here, as I said, G2 and North as well, this is where they can't afford to be grouped at an event like this, which is lacking the best teams. They just can't afford it.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting that you mentioned that the lack of top teams. So an event like this, it's almost actually a little more cutthroat because, for example, you go to a major, you lose to the team that wins it all, Astralis. Okay, you lost. You probably think, what if I didn't play them? How far I could have. But if you lose, you go to a tournament like this, there is no Astralis. As you said, you lose to NIP or possibly like a Furia. Now you made your value way worse, way lower than what it was before you entered the tournament. So this tournament can actually be, even though a lot of Tier 2 teams, be a lot more cutthroat within, I guess, each their own fan base and organization. Hey, if they don't do well in this tournament, some players can be shocked. That's the unfortunate truth.
This is how Dreamhack Opens used to be. Dreamhack Open used to be, Gambit have won. Gambit is still a top 10 team in the world, or North won, and then they went on to I think North won, or they came. It's the whole debacle with Luminosity, for example. They won one of the Dreamhacks, Austin, I believe it was. They win Dreamhack, and they go on to win Dreamhack Masters before the major. The Dreamhack Opens used to be this kind of event. Now you have teams which aren't attending the Dreamhack Masters and instead going to the Blast Pro Series, or they're taking this event off because they're waiting for IEM Sydney or IEM whatever it is next. This might be a problem for Dreamhack going forward because they need the best teams in the world to establish their brand as a Tier 1 organizer, because you don't want the asterisk where, Na'Vi won Star Series, but, Astralis weren't there, so did they really win? Would they have won? Does it really count? And that is a big issue potentially for some of these tournament organizers going forward, where if you don't have Astralis, you don't have Na'Vi, you don't have Liquid, MIBR, how credible, how much kudos and credence does your tournament even bring? And, we speak about these teams going back and forth, but I think at the moment it's more about tournament organizers who are really in competition at the moment.
It's a good question. It's like, what warrants Astralis' presence at an event? Is it the money? Because Star Series was a $500,000 event.
No, it was more money. It was more money than they skipped Star Series for Miami, and Star Series had double the prize pool. So
yeah, exactly.
It can't be money.
So why? Why?
I mean, they get so much money out of the Wahoo. I don't know. Maybe they wanted to visit Miami. I don't know. Maybe they didn't.
Nice.
Maybe they didn't want to go to China, or I don't know, something else. I don't know. Maybe visa problems. Who knows?
I mean,
it's definitely can't be money.
Yeah, no. Zonic did tweet that the reason they skipped Star Series and they went to Miami was because of the fact that traveling west is easier than traveling east. Obviously, if you go to China, 10 hours on the plane to China compared to 10 hours on the plane to America, it's very different. The food's very different. The jet lag feels very different as well. And yeah, that was their argument going forward. Is it that, or is the fact that, Yeah, no comment. Does our fresh own both the team and the tournament? So are they going to go to the tournaments instead? And that's when you start to just pretend you didn't see anything.
No, I think it's good points. I like the point that this is. I think it's an interesting tournament. Like you have like a lot of talent here, I like that it's a must win for Liquid, for FaZe, and if they won, it would be really, really good for the organization. You have Fnatic that wants to prove themselves, like you said, NRG, NiP, Renegades. If they won this, that would be huge for them. But then you also have like the situation of G2. Vitality, and then you could see, Furia in action. You could see Tyloo back into the mix, competing against, tier 1, tier 2 teams. So I'm looking forward to it for sure. Well, I'll actually be at the event. Shout out to UGC. Thank you guys. So
wow,
maybe we'll get to talk to some of the guys. Really quick, I did want to talk about Dreamhack Open Rio. Happening this weekend. You had Ago dropped out because of health issues. I think one of the players had an ear infection, I read.
You can't fly with that, can you?
No, you can't.
It's got to be just
especially
annoying.
If it's severe. Well, it would hurt so
pressure.
Much. The air pressure would hurt so much. It's not. I mean, you could rupture your eardrum. I'm not an ear doctor or anything like that, but obviously, if there's too much pressure, something's going to pop, and there you go. So it's not worth it.
Yeah. So let's pull up the teams really fast. We could take a look. And I just had you have Group A, Group B. Two things to point out. Obviously, I think the big names here are going to be Furia and a Vanguard Furia because they obviously declined their ESL Pro League spot to participate
Group
in
of death
this
over there.
tournament. I know, right? It's a little one-sided. But the team's on the up and up. They're looking really sharp. They took first place in the Dallas NA qualifiers. And then you obviously have Vanguard, who's responsible for a number of upsets. They've had beat Furia, G2, Tyloo, NRG, and FaZe Clan at IM Katowice. The team's looking good. You have Jame, who is a solid player. Took first at LootBet Season 1. And, it's happening this weekend, right? So, I guess it'll be good.
I think it starts tomorrow. Pretty sure it starts tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning for me. God knows what that is for you.
Yeah.
Maybe
Friday, are we considering Friday the weekend?
Yeah.
I mean, in my state, mate, not being able to work with all these operations, every day's the weekend.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the teams, I mean, the Group A seems like who knows who might come out of that one. I mean, you got 3 solid teams. You got Furia up on the rise. They skipped EPL just to participate at this Dreamhack.
Crazy.
So you know that they want to win this more than anything, but they have to face against United. There's no pushover. They have, they can beat teams. You see it. They just beat Renegades just not too recently. They got a Vanguard who's had upsets. They're slow, kind of up style with Jamie just sitting back and waiting for forever might be a problem for Furia Esports, who likes to be aggressive, like to be, wild and peak and stuff like that. So that might be a problem. And you got in Group B, I mean, I'm seeing Valiance. So whoever, I think they get first out of that group without a doubt. And I think it's been whoever wins Group A. I don't know. I mean, you guys have any idea who might take it? I'm going to just have the edge to Furia because, again, they sacrifice a Pro League spot for this, so they have to be way more fired up than the average other teams that are playing Group A.
But then all that does is add pressure.
It does. You're right. It's a conundrum. I mean, it depends how you look at it.
I think it just adds a lot of pressure into this team, and I think there's a big question mark as to why you would deny Pro League to. And this is not being disparaging to DreamHack, Tier 1 tournament organizer, but why would you skip Pro League for DreamHack Open? When you think of sponsorship deals, when you think of branding, when you think of where you can get out the consistent LAN performances, when you think of the teams you're going to be playing in Pro League as well, versus, no offense to INTZ or EU United or whatever, we'd much rather be playing versus the top echelons of North American Counter-Strike over a consistent basis on LAN, remember. So the big question for me is, why did they skip it? I mean, I'd like to actually open that question up for both of you. Why do you think they skipped Pro League for this?
I think it has to be a power move. I think they want to solidify it because, I mean, everyone knows MIBR is the team for Brazil. Fallen and the company have been pretty much the face of Brazilian CS for for how long? For how many years? Years and years and years right now. Now, Furia, maybe their mind thinking, all right, MIBR is not doing as well right now. Maybe this is the time that they can try to sneak up into. Well, obviously, they won't be able to beat MIBR in terms of popularity until they start beating them consistently in tournaments and whatnot. But maybe in the meantime, they're doing it to get that second place, to get, okay, MIBR is not doing too well. Who's the other team that we could root for? Oh, Furia. They've always, been in there. But then it's like a catch-22 that you're denying a pro league spot, which gives you more invites to other tournaments. So I don't know. It's
and kudos and credence and experience and prestige. So I'm not saying Dreamhack Open doesn't have prestige, but obviously not the same level as Pro League does. And how interesting as well, right? The meta shift in the tournament circuit, the tournament climate we've had in the past few years. Think, right? 2 years ago, 3 years ago, Pro League was literally do or die. Like, I remember 2017, Pro League was the must. You have to be in Pro League. If you're a top team in the world, you have to be in Pro League. When Virtus Pro fell out of Pro League, when it's a Premier, it was a massive embarrassment. It had a massive effect on the team. Obviously, there's such a big team that still got invites. But even so, Pro League was a massive establishment within the Counter-Strike circuit. Now, it feels like there's so many other events, Blast or the Dreamhack events, whatever. And it feels like now the power is shifting away from these established leagues and fading more into the tournament circuit itself, because there's so many tournaments now a year that, if we're not in Pro League, it's fine. Blast are hosting 7 events a year. Well, that's, one every 2 months that we can now go to. Not going to Pro League isn't quite as detrimental. Not being in Pro League isn't as detrimental as it was before. And some teams actually argued, last year, that being in Pro League is a problem. You have to play all of these online matches. I know they fixed it, but even so, they had to play all of these online matches. They're playing them, after long days at LAN, in the hotel rooms, playing these Pro League matches on 100 ping from across the world, and it became a much more of a nuisance than a must in the Counter-Strike tournament circuit. And I think for the players as well, they focus more on the actual events than these online leagues. But it's just interesting to see how it just changed these past 2 years.
No, I think that's a great point, Alex. It's taxing. The online tournaments are so taxing on the players, the mind, the body, and like after you play at a LAN, you're expected to go back and run more with this much on the line. Like it just, I don't know how you can maintain that level of focus for that long. To answer your question though, as to why, I really do not know. Like I really do not have a solid answer. Maybe I think Bears, like in fact of playing in front of the home crowd, the fact that it's in Rio. Just having the Brazilian audience there live. Those guys love CS. It's like a religion over there. So for them to be able to cheer for a team to win, and I think that this tournament is well within Furia's grasp. Like the real only contender. I mean, obviously you've got some talent there, but I think a Vanguard is going to be between them two, if I had to guess.
Alliance and Vanguard,
yeah, Alliance as well. So they have the opportunity to win that. Maybe that's has something to do with that they think they can get a first place at this tournament, and it might play into the brand more, per se, than going through the Pro League.
Maybe.
Yes.
I still think being in Pro League's worth so much more than one 100K event. Personally,
I mean, everyone does, right?
Yeah, there might be more to the story than we know. Who knows? Who knows? Maybe there's visa issues with traveling to America. But they live in America, don't they, Furia? So I don't know. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But everyone's for that. Everyone's like, why would you? So now we're having to make a case against the logical option, which is going into the Pro League, right? So it's kind of this weird.
And that makes us look stupid, right? So.
Yeah. Like maybe it's something in the air. You don't really know. Let's talk about sort of the main brunt of the show, which is the Blast Pro Series Miami recap. This tournament was awesome. But huge shout out first off, before we get anything, to this fucking kid right here. I want to see him. Let's pull him up. Boom. Look at this kid. Just mimicking Frankie. I thought this was hilarious, honestly. I just found this on.
Oh my god, how did I not see that?
This kid's got the hands down.
Oh my god, he's loving it.
Huge shout out to him. He's almost nailing it on point. Pretty much. Yeah, in all seriousness, you got, I think even before talking about FaZe winning, You had Astralis bowing out in 5th place. They lost to MIBR 2-16. Let me tell you, I have HLTV Twitter alerts come right to my phone. And when I saw this headline, I almost fainted. They lost 2-16 to MIBR, and then 5-16 lost to FaZe after that. But why? Any kind of reasoning you guys think Astralis played so poorly here?
They definitely an off event for Astralis. I mean, teams can have off events, but I think a bigger thing to take, other than just saying an off event, is the format of the tournament. Astralis is so good because of they are able to adjust in best of 3 series. They lose a map, they can make these adjustments for the next one, and beating Astralis in the best of 3 is way different, obviously, than beating them on the best of 1. Maybe you catch them slipping, maybe you have a specific anti-strat for one map where you just you find that pocket, you find that little spot where it just takes advantage of them at that time. Now, in order to replicate that multiple times through over multiple maps, it's not easy. That's not even, as right now, it hasn't been seen almost a year with Astralis. They've been pretty much unstoppable this last year. And you look at a lot of earlier best of 3 series, not recently. I mean, they've been pretty much 2-0ing a lot of teams lately, up to the last major and whatnot. But like before that, Astralis would drop a map occasionally in best of 3s. It was always close maps, like you have to beat them in overtime, or it's like a 16-14 or something. But these 16-5, 16-2 losses are super, super uncharacteristic, and they don't have a chance to make up for that in the best of 3. In the Blast Pro Series, it's a best of 1, and you move on. That's it. And so it didn't hand them a chance to really take it back a map. Like maybe they just had one bad day. And the tournament's only 1 day. So if you have one bad day, you're out. That's how it works.
I think a really good point to mention, just to piggyback off what you said, DaBears, is the fact that it is best of 1s and not best of 3s. Obviously, when you look at Astralis and the reason why they are so successful, it does boil down to the map pool, right? Now, especially with Cash being out of the map pool and bringing in Vertigo. So teams are going to be banning Vertigo, which now means Astralis then ban, whatever they want to ban. It could be Overpass, it could be whatever, right? They then ban their next map. And it means they are going to get their hands probably on Inferno or Nuke or a map which, Inferno, after this event, Astralis are still 18-0 on, I believe. They were 16-0 on it before the event actually started. Nuke, they're 29-0 on still. And what that means is in the best of 3, you have to give away one of these best maps to Astralis, which means they go one map up already, almost by default. Mm-hmm. They may lose against you on your map pick, which is what we've seen so far. Obviously, Overpass here for FBR, Dust 2 for FaZe. You might beat them on your map pick, but the deciding map is always going to be one in favor of Astralis. Be it Nuke, be it Overpass, be it Inferno. They're still going to take the series 2-1 at the bare minimum. And I think that's the real talking point here is the best of 1s, as you said. Does it really favor a team like Astralis? Not particularly, but obviously they have had a bad day. I mean, the 16-5 loss over FaZe is very interesting. Obviously, Nico and Rain were performing unbelievably well. Magic's being the only one able to fire back. Then you look at the one you said on Overpass versus MIBR, the one that made you shook to your boots, 16-2. Obviously, coldzera had one of the best performances he's had in months in events. And as you said, you may have a bad day. Your opposition will have a great day. coldzera has the performance reminiscent of 2017, 2018. And this does happen. 16-2, you lost. But with the format, it's not as if they go into a not round robin. They go into a GSL format where they have a best of 3 decider match. No, it's just round robin best of 1s. There's no deciding match, which is best of 3, which means, 2 losses, 2 best of 1s, and you're out. So
it happens quick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
I like that.
The analysts were talking about that game, that might be Astralis and Overpass, and saying that coldzera had this game that was reminiscent of his time at SK. It's exactly what they were saying on the stream. Yeah. I think the best of 1 format it's never favored Astralis because, to your point, Bears, Astralis is this team where even when they go down the first map and then even into the map 2, if they're down a number of rounds, you still think they're going to come back because they always do it. I remember it at IM Chicago, against Fnatic, against Liquid, and just like all the time, this is the theme of Astralis. This is what they do. But obviously, as you said, you had Nico and Rain have the performance of a lifetime, and FaZe Clan ended up winning the event, which I'm actually happy for them because I feel like FaZe has been in the shadows for a while. It's taken them so long to kind of bounce back. You had they absolutely stomped Liquid in grand finals, and that's a team that went 5-0 in the groups.
It's a different story, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, they lost 5-16 against Liquid in the first round, and they came back and beat them in the best of 3. Pretty convincingly. Nico is the HLTV MVP. He said, "We played," and I quote, "We played like a team. We played like fucking champions." So what do you guys think? And Snodz, if you want to kick this one off, what do you think of FaZe Clan at Blast?
I think it boils down to Liquid. I think I want to talk about Liquid first. Sorry to
No, go
ruin
for it.
that
Go
segment
for it.
because it was really good. But the reason I want to talk about Liquid is because this is Liquid's event to win. Now, you go into, as you said, the initial part of the round robins. They go 5-0. Let me just pull up the scores. I had it written down somewhere. Liquid goes 16-5 over FaZe on Nuke, which you spoke about. 16-14 win over C9. Obviously, C9, the first appearance of KGB on the roster, and the new additional changes they made there, but they still got the win. 16-12 win over Navi and Inferno. 16-14 win over Astralis on Overpass. 16-10 versus MRBR. And then they go 0-2 in the grand final and they lose. And this is where things get kind of interesting or sad, really, for Liquid. I was reading the interview that Nafly wrote about before the event, and he mentioned that they much prefer being the underdogs. They don't like being favorites. They feel an additional level of pressure when they are favorites. And he mentioned about it in, what was the event? Trying to remember which event it was. It was the major. It was the major where they had the quarter or the semifinals, apologies, versus ENCE, and they said that pressure that they had to win, or they felt like they were the heavy, 90-10 favorites, actually played on their minds a lot more, and they were overthinking, and they were losing rounds, which otherwise they wouldn't be losing if they came into a best of 3 series as underdogs, where the pressure isn't there, and you have their star players performing, and as a team, they work together. So I think for Liquid, this is really the highlight of their big issue with dealing with pressure. And obviously they had the problem with choking and trying to win events, but also it boils down to how does this team perform under pressure? How do they fix that problem? Is the problem endemic in the roster itself? Is it a problem with a few of the players that have been on there for a while, Elysian Co? Where does this problem begin and how does it end? How do they fix it? Because they go 5-0 in the groups, beating Astralis, Na'Vi, 16-5 on Nuke versus FaZe. And then they get dumpstered in the finals, 16-6 on Mirage, and then 16-12 on Dust 2, with a 12-free half, remember, as well, coming out of FaZe. So it was dominant. Don't let that 16-12 scoreline mislead it. That Dust 2 first half was 12-3. FaZe were dominant. So where was the Liquid of the group stages? And why did they suddenly become this different team versus FaZe in the finals in front of the home crowd?
Yeah, no, that's Liquid definitely has huge mental problems with their team, and we could take it all the way back to pretty much when this started. When we started realizing Liquid's going to be a good team / the curse or whatever that people think of Liquid. It started on Mirage against Luminosity. They were close to match point. I think they had like 14 or 15 rounds or something like that.
59, yeah.
It was 15-9. So they were literally at match point, and then Cold Zero has that one of the most memorable rounds in CSGO history, the jumping up in the halls, getting 2 Liquids, and then after that, Liquid completely falls apart. After that point, I'm putting Mirage on my ban list. I was like, I'm not taking more chances. I hate this map in general, regardless. But if you look over the past, Liquid keeps picking Mirage over and over and over and over again. And I mean, I guess they like the map. Maybe they do well. But if you look at their past matches, they tend to lose a little bit more. Like, I looked at their stats for HLTV on the map Mirage, and Mirage is actually one of their worst winning maps. They got like a 56%. I don't know how accurate that is, but it's one of the maps that they play the most, but have one of the least win percentages, other than maybe Nuke or something. But now I look at the recent bans in their last couple matches, they're starting to ban Mirage first now instead of playing it out and picking it. So I guess that's one step maybe to help overcome, stop playing Mirage. That map can be a little, I guess, traumatic like that. I don't know how many times they've lost from after being ahead on Mirage. Yeah. It's more than once. It's more than 5
well,
times, I bet.
That's the scary thing, that they lost 16-6. They were never ahead. It was never a situation where they had the advantage and they couldn't close it out. It was simply the fact that they struggled. They struggled to even perform 50% of what they did in the group stages where the pressure wasn't there. So that's the salient point, I think.
And I think also FaZe probably had to realize, wait a minute, we're in the finals against Liquid. We're both kind of known for choking in finals. Both teams have we both kind of choke a little bit. But I'm sure in FaZe's mind, these guys choke way more than we do. And so that probably gave them a little confidence. They had to give them confidence to be just peek them. What are they doing? They're going to play so passive. Team Liquid played so passive. They give up too much map control, and they just.
But also FaZe the underdogs. Suddenly FaZe the underdogs now, and Liquid's are the one poised to win in front of a home crowd, favorites to take the finals. And they bottled it. Simple as that. They bottled it. So touch on FaZe. Obviously, incredible performance by Nico, in-game leading and achieving the MVP status from HOTV. Got to give a shout out to Rain as well. Reminiscent performance from months and maybe even years prior. Rain was phenomenal in the event itself, especially in the final as well. It felt like Nico and Rain with his tag team duo that were just too much for Liquid to handle. And that's the point. Going into that final, where was that aim that could fire back against the Nikos, the Rains who were performing so well? Where was Elige, Stewie 2K, Nafly? Where were they in that fight? Again, we're going to be sounding like a broken record here, constantly talking about the fact that they did bottle it, and that is a salient point. But got to take the hats off to FaZe here. Played absolutely fantastic. Congratulations to Nico and co. And can they replicate this at Masters? Dreamhack Masters?
It's a good question. I definitely Rain was 20-0 in the beginning in the first 9 rounds, I think, of Dust 2. He's running through. I mean, look at these stats. It's between 2 games. Almost a kill around, 47 between the 2. He had those back-to-back aces. I believe that was on Dust 2. I mean, the guy was on fire, and the only person that could have performed better than him was Nico, and he did. And that's why he got the MVP medal of the tournament. But you got to be feeling so bad if you're Liquid. I mean, this is it is the broken record narrative. It's Liquid choking, and it's just what do they need? Everyone has tried to dissect this or answer this question every way. And I don't know the answer anymore. You know what I mean? I always want to put my chips on Liquid and say they could do it. I think they're on the right path. Following their Twitter during the event, they seem we're doing it. We're doing well. Stewie's we're keeping our heads up. And I believe that from the outside, the attitude in the team looks good. But after just falling in the grand finals over and over and over and over again, this is a real problem mentally for them that they can't get over, it seems.
Yeah, being a championship to be a championship team, you have to have a combination of hard work, dedication, knowledge, that kind of instinct play, a whole bunch of a combination of a whole bunch of things. And for some reason, when Liquid gets to that moment to where something big's on the line, like a big championship or whatnot, the balance goes out the window, and then they get in some different mindset. Maybe they're too methodical, maybe they're too robotic, or because again, we saw they tend to play passive when they get in these situations. They plan to try to play more team oriented. Let me wait for my teammate to flash, but that doesn't work at the high level. You're playing against other players that have been playing 100 hours a week as well, every 2 weeks, constantly scrims at the highest level. You can't play basic SCS. You have to find those instinct those playmaker moves, and you have to know when to do it. And Team Liquid does not know how to make those moves at the high pressure situations. They could do it up to that point, but when it comes to that final match, they hesitate too much, or they just make the wrong move at the right time, or a wrong move at the wrong time.
They looked fucking lost on Dust 2. That's all I'm going to say. And this is a map that they've beaten Astralis on. This is one of their better maps, in my opinion, I think. And they looked fucking lost. But go on, Snodz.
Yeah, I was going to say, obviously, you asked the question, what can they do to fix it? And I think this is what's so scary for Liquid at the moment, is the fact that you had Zeus, who's obviously now coaching for MIBR, but you had Zeus, this 2-time major winner coach, this older figure in the team, extremely experienced, and I'll constantly highlight the experience factor here, because you have young players. I mean, Elige said, I think he shares the same birthday as me. Twists, Stewie 2K, around this 18 to 21 years of age, having Zeus as the coach and obviously the in-game leader at times was so beneficial for this team. And even then, they had these constant struggles with bottling in finals, struggling in high-pressure situations. But it's interesting you mentioned the liquid choke. And obviously, I think the liquid choke also came from League of Legends as well. So completely different esports. I don't know if you follow League of Legends at all, Cody, but I used to years and years and years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was always that Liquid are really good in the regular season, and then in the playoffs and in the gauntlet, they always would finish fourth, and they would never make it to the World Championships, whatever. You know, all these times they kept finishing fourth. And the thing is, it's like, does this problem with performing under pressure actually fall back on the organization? Are they putting too much pressure on the players? Is there a higher level of stress in the team to perform? You know, match sponsor expectations. They have to meet certain requirements. They have to get certain results. There has to be wins and championships. You play for Liquid, you have to be a champion, etc. You know, even watching some documentaries. I watched the Complexity documentary from years and years and years ago. I think it's called Redemption or something begins with an R.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was like Jason Lake sat behind these players, you know, chain smoking these cigarettes, looking so stressed and so panicked. And he's like, "Oh, if my CS team doesn't win the event, you know, I can't afford to pay their salary." You know, all this stuff. You know, that pressure does, you know, offload to the team as well. And I'm not saying obviously Liquid are struggling to pay the salaries, but maybe through osmosis there is this high level of stress in this chamber of Liquid, because it seems like choking under pressure isn't just endemic to CSGO. It goes into League of Legends, other games as well. And, you know, they've even had very experienced coaches, still have the same problem. They're bringing Stewie 2K, a major champion, still got the same problem. And they changed the roster so many times. The problem's been there for years. I mean, that 2016 clip was early, you know, MLG Columbus was early 2016. You know, it's 3 years ago now. So the problem is still there. And where does it lie? That's the question. It could be the organization. It could be, you know, Liege and Nitro, the only players that are still there. So where is it?
It's a question I definitely don't know the answer to.
No, I don't, and neither do they. That's the problem. They don't
No one
know
does.
either. So
I wonder if they know. You know what I mean? Like, it could be the organization. That's a good point. That's something that I've certainly never thought of, right? Liquid, though, is like this monstrous team and brand. They have sponsorships with Honda, with everybody in the space. So, there's no telling. I'm hoping for the best for Liquid. But regardless, again, we're gonna push towards closing this guy out. We got signature way that we like to end the show. We like to end on a good note with our Hotspawn play of the week and our banter of the week. And the Hotspawn, which I've called De Ninja, comes from Blast Pro Series Miami. You've probably seen this clip or at least heard of it. I'll let the clip be speaking for itself. All right, you just ruined it, but you know what? We're going to roll it anyway. I'm kidding.
But if you have to go all the way back around A there and check every corner along the way, so I understand why they want to keep going here. The flashbang set up, the spray continues. Taco picking up one, but Phelps is right there to recover it, and Cold Sierra to take down Twist. That is a great execute onto the bomb site. Very nice kills to open it up, and now the question is, can they make it past Nitro? They do. I think Fallen got tagged even,
but still, that should be it now. Nitro will have to save the AWP, and in terms of loss bonus, there'll be a second stage next round. That's going to be $1,900 per player. If Nitro saves the orb, they're still in a lot of trouble here, but he doesn't really have a choice now. MIBR will find double digits at this point, but will they find the final frag? If they do, it will almost guarantee the next one for them. Quick scope comes in. Nitro nails it, just trying to fight for his life at this stage, and we'll see if this is going to be enough. Fallen low HP, it looks like, oh no. He's got a kill. No. He can do this, Anders. He can do this. He's coming in, and I think he's done it. He's pulled it off. Team Liquid win the round. It's Nitro with the Ninja Defuse from hell. They were hunting in the final frag, and somehow they dropped the ball.
Alex, you definitely didn't ruin it. Don't worry. I don't take that personally. But this clip right here.
I did anyway.
Good. This is absolutely just jaw-dropping.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Henry G's casting there. Those moments are really hard to cast because if you go too hype and the play doesn't happen, then it sounds awful. But then if you don't go hype enough, this is true though, this is true. But if you don't go hype enough, the play does happen, well then you've just misrepresented the play and you haven't really lived up to it. So it's a lose-lose situation. He took the gamble and it was bloody brilliant. So fair play, Henry.
Yeah, good call. And this is kind of the play, like, who would like try to ninja in this situation, as a 1-on-4 situation, they're probably not in the bomb site. Those are the kind of plays that you kind of have to make at this high level. It's so ridiculous, but it worked in that exact moment. Why? Because I guess a combination of the history of Liquid and how they play, they're always methodical. So like a lot of this background information that teams know about Team Liquid, very safe team, up 1-on-4, save the up. So this forced MIBR to be more aggressive, to peak, to hunt for this op that he's saving, but he turned it around, and it's like, it's so, like, it's one round out of 1,000 that you see this, but it's the type of plays, the type of decisions you have to continuously make if you want to be a championship team. And this is one of those plays that you see, wow, this is a championship. This move right here is ridiculous and out of control, but it worked. And, you know, it's beautiful to see this. And these are the kind of plays you have to make consistently almost. It's kind of hard, but that's what you got to do to be a championship team. You have to make these kind of plays.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was just an absolute masterstroke from Nitro. Like, he knows that he's being closed in on. He gets that kill and almost no hesitation, whips out the knife and just puts it to the bomb because he knows they're coming at him anyway. Knows that the bomb site's probably clear, right? Because they want to get off that. They're getting around him to fill up the choke points. Surely he's not going to jump onto the bomb, and he goes for it, and he gets it.
Just how many saved alps in practice and matches he had to do against MIBR for him to make that move at that moment. It's just
But it's
like
also
I
the
see the whole
money,
big
yeah.
picture, and it's beautiful.
I think it's also the money as well. The fact that the economy is low for Liquid. The chance that he's going to go for this is so unlikely. Why would you ever take the risk if you're not going to be able to afford an AWP in the next round? You know, it's 1 in 100 that you actually make it. So I think that's one of the reasons why they did commit so hard to go for the hunt, to go for the kill on Nitro with the AWP, going in towards A side, expecting to go back. But actually, he took that risk, and the gamble paid off. So fair play. It was a brilliant.
Yeah, fair play indeed. And I love seeing this from Liquid because I feel like this team embodies that kind of out of the box thinking. There's 1 in 100 plays, as you said, Alex. You know, I've seen NAF. NAF is probably the one that embodies it the most in my mind, is just pulling those out at the most unthinkable plays that swing an entire round in their favor. Yeah, brilliant from Liquid, without a doubt. Lastly, got our Banter of the week this week. This is an actual McDonald's in Copenhagen.
I saw this.
Have you seen this?
Yeah,
This
noob
is
menu.
ridiculous.
There's like an eco one as well.
Oh,
Or auto buy and an eco round. Oh, that's crazy. I'm
What
not a
is
big
utility
fan
box?
of 20 chicken nuggets. Oh, like 20 chicken nuggets. I'm not a big fan of chicken nuggets.
You're
I'm more of like
you're
a-
banished from the reload now at this point for saying that.
I'm curious.
Yeah,
What's a utility box compared to CS:GO? Is this just CS:GO? Is this another games combined with it? Like, what's a utility box?
Yeah, I
Is
don't
that like a term
I'm
in
not sure.
Europe?
Utility box. No, utility is obviously like grenades and stuff like that. But a utility box, I think they're just trying to brand it. I don't know.
I like that the
that makes
dollar
sense.
menu is the eco round. I think that is probably smart.
10 kronars. Is that $1?
Yeah, it's about 1 to 10. So yeah.
Look at those little chicken nugget flashbangs. That's probably what they were going for with the utility thing, honestly.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, smoke grenades is like chicken nuggets and stuff like that. That's pretty,
They're
that's pretty
basic,
smart.
it's basically the same thing, right? Honestly. Yeah, I'm wondering how they got away with that there.
I don't have the
Probably
But no,
laws
they
based
did
on
another
higher-
one.
here.
They did one similar for Pro League Odense. Was it Odense? I'm pretty sure it was. It was a big event in Denmark, and they had like the same thing with McDonald's, where it's like the eco round, full buy, half buy, that kind of stuff. And yeah, smart marketing, because here we are now talking about it. There it was, 10,000 upvotes on Reddit, and I'm guaranteed for the money that McDonald's put into that investment for marketing, they got their money back and more. So fair play.
Dude, if you're telling me I could get an eco round cheeseburger, I'm going in. I don't even like McDonald's, but I'll go in there to get
Where's my
that.
CS:GO discount code? Do you know what I mean? Like before 5 p.m. or before the major final, get like X amount off a bloody cheeseburger. So I don't know. I'm just walking here, but
Yeah, no, it's brilliant.
yeah, maybe that's the next step. Oh, has my camera just died? Can you hear me?
I could hear you.
I could hear you.
I hear your voice.
You just
So
can't. That's fine. You can see
It's
the
good enough.
little
You made
chin.
it. You made it the entire show. So honestly, oh, there you are. You're back.
Yeah, my
Um,
internet's crashing. So
It's all good. It's all good. That's gonna do it for the show, guys. Alex, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. You dropped some insane insights, and thank you for putting in the research into the show, man. I really appreciate it. Where are we gonna catch you next, man? Where can I watch you casting?
God, I'm gonna be doing some stuff for ESL UK in May and June, and then I've got announcements, working on stuff in behind the scenes, but I can't talk about it yet. So I've got announcements for events and other stuff as well outside of just casting, to be announced maybe the next few months. So exciting times.
Proper, mate. Well, again, thank you so much, Erik. Any last words?
It's great to have you on the show and catch me casting some ECS at the end of this month.
Yeah.
Okay. Post some stuff. Yeah, I'll do some ECS stuff. Yeah.
There we go. All
Throw
right.
it up there. Throw that. Follow us on Twitter. They'll be there.
Yeah.
All right, proper guys. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you guys soon.
Adios.
Thanks for having me.
Later, guys. All right, guys, and that's going to do it for this episode of Reload. Huge shout out to Snodz, DaBears, obviously our sponsors at Hotspawn Esports. Definitely go check them out, www.hotspawn.com. They're covering CS, League, Dota. They have guides, esports news, data analysis. Catch some pieces from me as well. Go ahead and follow us on Twitter as well, at The Reload FM. That's our Twitter. We're putting up funny CS memes. You could always catch some of the highlights from the show and all that good stuff. Again, thank you guys for tuning in and watching, and I will catch you next week, Thursday at 2 p.m. Thank you.